Welcome to the 1990 series. My name is Amanda O'Shea, the Loving Life Coach from the Serendipity Experience. And it is my absolute pleasure to introduce Mr. 90 of this series, Mr. Joe Bailey, all the way over there in St. Paul, Minnesota. Joe, how you doing? Welcome.
Well, thank you so much, Amanda, and Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays to everybody on this 2 days before Christmas or 3 days before Christmas. So I'm sure everybody is getting ready for the holidays, as am I. And but it's in this spirit that we want to end this 90 talks in 90 days.
Yeah, absolutely. It was 90 little conversations with 90 fabulous people over 90 days. And
Wow.
I'm delighted that you are Mr. 90. And I know how busy you are, Joe, so I appreciate your time. And yeah, this sort of winter solstice, today, tomorrow, we're on that winter solstice weekend. So, the days are only getting longer and brighter after this.
That's right.
And
Yeah.
well, and it's a nice time this time. I like this run up to the Christmas. I like this time of year. I like the excitement and the buzz, and so
Well, it's a time to celebrate, but it's also a time to reflect back on our year and what we've been given and the trials that the challenges and also the awakenings that we've had during the past year, and then a time to look forward with vision to the future. So I love this time of the year. It's often a time for quiet reflection and just being with family and appreciating the abundance that we all have. So this is a great day to be talking about this delightful topic of transformation and how it's really our birthright.
yeah, I love the title. We've given it "Getting on the Transformation Train."
Yeah, a lot of us don't know we're on the transformation train. We're all on it, whether we know it or not. And it looks like, sometimes people come into this world and they're curious and they want to know how life works, and their curiosity and their desire to be creative spirits is what allows them to transform. For others, they might get on the transformation train a little later because life forces them into a corner through addiction, through depression, anxiety, financial loss, loss of a relationship. A crisis happens, and it's often in that crisis that we're kind of, in a way, painted into a corner, brought to our knees, find humility, and have the openness and the willingness to allow this power of transformation to come through us, because it's our birthright. We're born to reawaken our true essence of our true self, our true essence, who we really are. We came into the world with, but we cover it up with a lot of insecure, habitual thinking. And through the trials and tribulations of life and curiosity and just that innate urge, we managed to get back on that train of transformation. So that's what my book is about, that I'll tell you more about, and also what the conference is about that we'll be talking about later in this interview.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually a few days ago, I had a conversation with Amy Johnson. So your partner in crime,
Right.
behind the very exciting Three Principles recovery conference coming up next year in May, and we talked about the gift of habits and addictions. Like you just said, whatever it is that almost forces people to look in this direction, once they're here, then we can then sort of see the gift in that. If that's what had to happen to wake people up, if that's what had to happen to shake people, it's like some of us have a little stroke and a little tap, and others seem to need a good old shake and be thrown off the balcony.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
It's like whatever it is, it seems to be that, like you, I've found myself working in the area of recovery and addiction, and I don't know how that happened. It just kind of happened, and then we see people who have come out the other side, who
Yeah.
are really grateful for all the experiences that they've had, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
I
because
hear that very often that, in 12-step meetings and in other forms of recovery meetings, that people will say, I am so glad I became an alcoholic or a drug addict or a food addict or whatever sexual addiction addict, because if I hadn't, I wouldn't have discovered the depth of what I'm capable of. I wouldn't have discovered the beauty that's inside of me. I would have led a mediocre life.
yeah.
But sometimes that happens. I know just 2 years ago, I was suffering from a very serious illness called Lyme disease. And it was through that kind of being brought to my knees with a neurological disorder where I couldn't think anymore and had no energy that I really discovered a greater depth of the three principles. It
Mm,
really helped me see how my fear of my illness and my fear of death was really the thinking that was keeping the illness alive. And I was feeding that negativity innocently through the power of my mind. And that helped me see these principles at a much deeper level than I've ever seen. So in the end, I've felt, even though it was a painful process, I felt extremely lucky and grateful that I had that awakening that followed that suffering, that
wow.
transformation. So it really inspired me to write this book, The Transformation Principle, because I realized that my work for the last 40 some years has been about helping to midwife or birth people through their transformation experience, through therapy, through treatment, through my books that I've written, is really to point people back to that inner essence that has all the insight, all of the information, all of the knowledge, the spiritual information that guides us back to our true spirit, to our true essence. And when we have that awakening, when we have that transformation experience, and it's not a one-day deal, it's an ongoing process. But when we have that beginning awakening experience, it's like we feel we've come home. It feels as though we're comfortable in our own skin for the first time. We feel at rest in our own being. And that is the most amazing feeling, is to just feel those feelings of contentment, peace of mind, what we're all really looking for when we look in the bottle or in the drugs or in food or whatever. We're looking for a positive feeling. And to find out and discover that what we've been looking for was inside us all along is a little humbling, but also extremely gratifying to find out I don't have to look outside for that feeling anymore.
Yeah. It's a relief, isn't it? We know, I mean, these conversations that we've had, all 90 of them now, really, are pointing to that, exactly that. Everyone's looking for a good feeling, chasing the good feeling. It feels so natural for us to want to feel good, because that's who we are, at our true essence. And it's like getting the train home, isn't it? It's like being on this, like, it's getting on that train and just coming home. You really
Exactly.
don't know where you're
Yeah.
going, but it just does one big kind of loop, brings you home to who you truly are.
Yeah.
It's
The other thing that's important, I think, for our listeners to remember is that sometimes we can have that transformational awakening, that uh, turning point. It's a real major turning point in our life, a crossroads, if you will. And it can seem like, okay, now I'm good to go for the rest of my life. And then we'll hit another wall and another wall. And so sometimes people get discouraged on this transformation train, and they think they've been lost again, or they didn't really know what they thought they knew, or they didn't really discover the truth. And that's not the case at all. It's that transformation is an ongoing evolutionary process. And every time we hit the wall or we fall and stumble again, it's an opportunity for a deeper awakening, for a deeper understanding of the thinking that's this illusionary thinking that we keep peeling away and seeing more clearly, not through the veil of our habitual thinking, but through a clear window pane that
mm,
allows us to see and illuminate the true essence of life that's all around us. Life is a really incredibly beautiful thing. No matter where you are in life, you can see beauty when your eyes are clear.
Yeah.
So this is ongoing, and we're all on the same train. And no matter whether we're recovering from an addiction or we're still addicted, um, once we understand the principles behind this, and Sydney Banks, I have a quote I want to read from Sydney Banks. He said, throughout time, human beings have experienced insights that spontaneously and completely change their behavior and their lives, bringing them happiness they previously thought impossible. That's from The Missing Link.
Yes.
And that's, to me, the hope that always, when I work with a client, I see that at any moment they can have that insight that's going to turn their life around.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm writing this book, and it's a series of stories of people from all walks of life, from all types of things. Even though it started to be a book about addiction and recovery, it's now morphed into much broader, because my clientele is people I work with are far broader than just people in the addiction field.
Sure.
And so I have stories from people from all over the planet who tell in their own unique way how this awakening of transformation happened.
Oh,
And
wow.
so the book is about the thread, the golden thread that ties all of those experiences together, the common principles.
Yeah.
And that's what the conference is about. It's the same thing.
So exciting. So it's like a book of testimonials in a way, really, is it? A book of stories,
Yes.
Joe, in your book.
Yeah.
Because you've written many books, and thank you for all the work that you would put in the years that you have of writing your books. And we've had your books at the treatment center where I work in Spain, especially the Serenity Principle. I've got them here. These were the books that have been the most read in the Serenity Principle, and of course this one, which I just love, Fear Proof Your Life, and slowing down to the speed of love, and slowing down to there's another one, Joe,
slowing down to the speed of life, and then there's the speed trap.
Speed of life. Yeah. And so it seems like naturally then you're a natural author. I mean, it's not so I don't
Well, that's another interesting story. It's too long to get into, but I hated to write in school.
Right.
And I was told to not even go to college because of my writing.
Oh.
And it wasn't until I was 40 years old that an editor convinced me to write the Serenity Principle after hearing me speak. And I'm a reluctant writer. But once I discovered that I didn't have to write from my intellect, that I could write from my heart, from inspiration, writing became just an incredible, uplifting experience. I love to write.
Great.
It's sometimes like giving birth. It doesn't always come out when you want it to, but it's an exhilarating feeling to hear fresh new ideas pour through your soul and come out on the page, and see that they can touch so many other people.
Isn't that, and it is really, I'm hearing that again and again, that it just pours. I just had the other day had a conversation with Samantha Hurst, who's written a book called Pourings of Love, and that was literally she just said it poured through her. And she was one of our 1990 guests, and you can't stop it. It's like your idea, or yours and Amy's idea, to get this conference going. Once that idea has been brought alive, it's in action, and here we all are. Here we all are making plans to be there.
I remember when it happened. Amy was interviewing me on her podcast, and afterwards we were just talking, and I said, we've never had a conference on addictions in the three principles. We need to do that. Yeah. And we both kind of went, yeah, and so we kind of forgot about it. And then when we were together at the annual conference last April, I brought it up again to her, and so we just announced to the group, anybody interested in participating in a conference on addiction. So we had a big group of people that joined us, and now we have a planning committee of 30, which you're on, Amanda, thank you.
Yeah.
And people from all over the world have come together to put this together. So we're thrilled about that coming up. That's May 12th through the 14th.
May 14th to the
2004.
16th. May
I'm
14th
sorry, 14th through the 16th. Thank you.
We're going to be there from the 12th. We'll be there getting everything ready and planning it. But the actual,
Great.
so we all arrive on the 12th. But for the public, it's the 14th to the 16th.
Yeah.
And that's going to be, so 3 days that we get to. 3 days that we get to, or 2.5 days. It's like an evening, isn't it? And 2 days that we get to hang out. We've got some amazing speakers, and we're just sharing that the new website now. And I think there's a real excitement of everybody coming together, even just meeting people. For us guys in Europe, meaning the guys that we spend a lot of time with like this online, but being in that room together, we know we can do magic stuff here online, but there's nothing like being in the same room together.
And if people can't be there, it will be available streaming. So
yeah. So
for your European audience to know that.
Absolutely, and so that's great too. And we're going to, seeing that, Joe, seeing the idea for the conference. So in a nutshell, what is it that you see is helpful for anybody who's just hearing this for the first time, that there's going to be this conference in America talking about the principles behind addiction recovery?
Well, the heart of what this conference is about, those of us who have worked in the addiction field know that there's a moment in time that happens when you see it in your clients, when you see the light bulb go off, and there's that moment of insight, that moment of awakening, when things shift. There's a shift in consciousness. In AA, they call it a spiritual awakening.
Mm-hmm.
You could call it a transformational experience. There's a lot of terms for it. But whatever that is, we're going to be exploring the science, the stories, the principles behind that. That's what the whole conversation is going to be around. So there'll be talks, and then there'll be panels of people, like people from your center and people from recovery centers all over the world, sharing their story of transformation. So to put some meat on the bones of the principles and see how this actually translates for the clients, but also for professionals, people who are in the recovery field or the mental health field, people who are transformers. That's their job, is to help people transform, is to educate us all about a new paradigm of understanding how the mind works that facilitates this transformational awakening in a natural way, in a way that is more simple, more painless, more pointed, more effective, to create the right ingredients and temperature for that awakening to happen. So that's what we hope to bring together at this conference. And in my book, that's what I hope to do as well, is to give people enough of the essence and the science of the principles behind this spiritual awakening. What is it that happens in the mind? How is the mind the creator of that transformational experience? So it's going to be a very powerful 2.5 days. And I really look forward to you being a part of it, Amanda, and your people that you're bringing along. And I hope all of you who are listening to this can join us either virtually or in person in St. Paul.
Absolutely. And it's going to be, so it's open to everybody. So whether you are somebody who is yourself, in addiction or in recovery, somebody who has family members that are in recovery, somebody who works, would like to know more about what we're doing in the world of addiction and recovery. So it's really open, isn't it, Joe? It's open to anybody who just wants to know more, wants to meet us.
People from lots of more traditional treatment centers to come to the conference because they're curious, because there's a big following in the Twin Cities where I live here, many support groups based on the three principles as an alternative to 12-step programs, not in contradiction to it, but in
Sure.
complement to it.
Absolutely. I'm so excited, Joe. I know that you did a lot of work with Gulf breeze recovery, and I'm going to go and spend a week there. Either we haven't decided yet, either before the conference or after the conference. But I'm going to,
Really? Oh,
yeah.
great.
So
Wonderful.
I'm going to go down there and spend a week, and I can't imagine what it would be like to be in a recovery center where everybody has kind of been trained in this understanding,
Yeah.
and see how that is. So that's also very, very exciting for me. And I mean, Gulf Breeds was something that I used to talk about a lot at the recovery center I worked at, that there was this recovery center, in America, that you had trained up all the staff, right, Joe? I mean, you used to come down and do trainings.
Well, I'm a consultant to them and have been for 7 years. So I do retreats with the staff twice a year for a week, and do ongoing coaching with the staff and the administration there. So they're very grounded in this paradigm. But there are other treatment centers. Farnham Center in New Hampshire is also totally based on the principles. There's the director and clinical director of that program will be speaking, as well as from Broad Beach, a program in Malibu, California. They're all based on this paradigm as well, and their staff will be involved in the program. So we'll have lots of people, and then there's lots of programs in the Twin Cities that have used the principles, and their staffs will be speaking here as well.
It's amazing because, back there it felt like, Gulf breeze, that's sort of, when I first learned about the principles, it felt like they were they were the first that I knew about. And then suddenly, there's another one and another one and another one. And it's just happening slowly. And, but we're like you say, news is spreading. People are ready to hear something, and we're certainly ready to share the way that we see it. So I really look forward to hanging out with you, Joe, and getting to know you and coming to your town.
Well, we'll look forward to having you and having a good time while we're at it.
Absolutely, and it is going to be. I'm head of the fun committee, so that's.
I can't imagine a better person.
So that's at least there's something about we're going to have a very. Yeah, it's nice to see that there can be fun and lightness around the world of recovery and addiction. It's really important to me.
That's kind of the point.
Yeah.
Joy is the purest expression of transformation. When you have a transformational experience, there's a feeling of joy that just finds itself, like the laugh of a baby.
Yeah.
You see that naturally in children, that just gleefulness. And that's what transformation looks like. It's not always like that. It's the whole gamut of emotion. But anyway, so will you have a link to the conference on?
What we're going to do, we'll put a link here. So click below on the link, and you'll be able to see everything that we do. I'm going to put below this video. But for now, we're just going to put the website on so you can book your tickets, find out some more information. And anybody who is watching this and doesn't know anybody else going to the conference, I'm going to do some sort of pre-conference little chats like this. So, anybody who's traveling by themselves gets to sort of meet a friend before they arrive. So nobody is alone and nobody is a stranger. And we'll all be there to welcome you with loving arms. So thank you, Joe Bailey, so much for being part of this 1990 series, and not just being part of it, but being the grand finale of a wonderful series that was inspired by the 1990 project that I hear, or the 1990 recommendation that I heard in sort of regular fellowship. Yeah,
Yeah.
programs. They talked about, they were, encouraging people.
90 meetings in 90 days. Right.
Exactly. And I heard that a lot from, a couple of the other therapists that do run with the 12-step program in the treatment center where I work, because we're a holistic center. And so I kept hearing this 1990. I was like, I'll take on that challenge. But somebody said so rightly the other day, when they did their 1990, they didn't have to work full time and have, and have 2 dogs to look after and this and that. So when they did their 1990, that's all that they had to do. But that's not the case for everybody. A lot of people that go into recovery are still working and are still running their families and find the time I suppose to put their recovery, to prioritize their recovery beyond anything else. And that's what happened here. I prioritize these conversations with people from all over. So I hope that some of you who have watched all of these, and some of you have only maybe just watched this one, watch another couple, go through, see what takes your fancy, and see if any of them speak to you. And we're always here to answer any questions. So lots of love to all. Thank you, Joe, and thank you everybody who's listened today and who's listened to any of this series. Love to all. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and we'll see you soon.
And may the force be with you.
May the force be with you. Cheers, Joe. Lots of love. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.